Happy New Year, folks, and welcome back to Cape. And today, Heather and I are joined by Gloucester Mayor Greg Verga to sort of give us the A to Z on his plans for Gloucester's 401st year. Happy New Year, Mr. Verga.
Happy New Year to the two of you. Glad to be here.
Yeah. So right off the top, Greg, now that the 400th and all those activities are behind us, what is it like going into a second term as mayor, where you don't really have to learn on the job?
Yeah, well. I mean, the 400th was, as I said many times, it was an honor to be mayor during that period. But there was a lot going on. So, I'm sure the tri-chairs would be happy to have their lives back, and it sure opens up my schedule, which can quickly get filled in with other things. But I'm looking forward to the 401st year. We've got a lot of excitement ahead of us, and we're ready to go.
Mhm.
So, Mayor, you don't have to learn the whole job this time. So
That's a great point. Yeah,
yeah.
I mean, I had come in with 8 years of school committee experience and 6 years of city council, but until you've been the mayor, you don't know how to be the mayor. And I had talked to pretty much all of my predecessors that are still with us, and got pointers over the last couple of years. But until you're really in the seat and start to get a feel for the day to day, and then be prepared for the unpreparable, all those crazy things that happened to us in that first term. Until you've lived it, you really don't know what it's like. So now that I've lived it, it should be smooth sailing for the next 2 years, I'm sure, with no craziness.
So do you want to talk about some of your goals and priorities for this coming year and for the term?
Sure. And these aren't necessarily in any particular order or things that I would put on the top of the agenda, but things that we have to do in addition to things that we'd like to do. And the big one is this 3A law, that the multifamily zone related to the MBTA communities, of which we're one of 175 in Massachusetts. And as we've talked about many times, this 3A law is a mandate that we have to have in place. We're currently in interim compliance. We did that by last December 31st of 22. But we have until the end of this year to be in full compliance. So we've talked about this quite a bit. We've got a grant, $75,000 grant, to hire a consultant to help us with technical assistance, someone who's got some expertise in this area. And we'll continue it's working in tandem with the comprehensive planning initiative, the so-called master plan. And we had to make sure we get this right, because it's going to come from our office with recommendations to the city council for zoning changes. And the council has to take that vote and have it done by the end of this calendar year. So there's not much room for error if we send them something that's going to A, not be compliant, or B, be just so controversial that it's not going to pass. So to make sure we get to a point where what we hand off to the council is A, good to go, and B, gives them enough time to work it, rework it, work through their system, through their subcommittees, through the council, through public hearings. But the end result is we must be in compliance, or we're going to be in a bit of a pickle otherwise.
Hmm.
So, Greg, I know after the elections, we talked about how the biggest priority was going to be the sewer treatment facility. So where do we stand with that right now?
Sure. So that continues. We as we've talked about before, we put $10 million of the ARPA money into it. We have a meeting this week to talk about next steps for that. But we're looking to get design, and with the agreement we have with the feds is by 2028 we'll have something in place. It's been decades that we've had this waiver, and it's just been kicked down the road for as I said, decades. And it came to me as mayor, and the musical chairs music stopped, and there were no chairs left. So it's time to address it instead of me handing it off to the next mayor, because each time it got kicked down, the price tag went. When I was on the council back in 2010-ish, we were talking about an $80 million project, and now we're talking about a $200 million project. So that's why we want to make sure that our consultants we're working with on this project, who have expertise in seeking grants, can be successful in doing that, because this cannot go on the sewer rate. It would just be overwhelming for our community. So like I said, we had $10 million towards a $200 million project. That helps, but we have a long way to go. But we've been in constant contact with our state delegation, our federal delegation, and we are going to be continuing to find a way to fund this this necessary and mandated project.
So, Mayor, something we don't often hear about, but it's a big operation and it's kind of working in the background, is the Gloucester Municipal Harbor Plan.
Yes.
Where do we stand with that?
So I was a member of the Harbor Planning Committee back in 2014 as a city councilor. And so it's like every 10 years, it's supposed to be updated. The city started the project earlier. They didn't wait till this year, 2024. And the Harbor Planning Committee's been at it for well over a year before I was here. And it's off to the state with the first draft. So currently we are awaiting the feedback from the state, and then it will go back to the Harbor Planning Committee to take a look at what changes the state is looking for and take some more votes, and hopefully it's something we can submit to the state for final approval. But that is a stay tuned project right now because it's out of our hands.
Is there ever a moment when that is sort of publicly presented, any sort of changes or things like that?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the changes were, the proposals were all public meetings. And when it comes back, it's going to wind its way through the system, through the Harbor Planning Committee, City Council, and then ultimately be approved at the state level. So as I say, just hang in there. There'll be more on that coming. It's kind of overdue, I believe, because it's been in the hands of the state for several weeks. So we were expecting something back a little while ago.
Mayor Verga, so Rocky Neck and Harbortown recently received a $15,000 grant from the Mass Cultural Council, and we haven't been able to speak about that yet. So do you want to just touch upon what that means for that area and those businesses?
Yeah, I mean, and it's a big deal for this particular grant. I was there this summer, I believe it was this summer. Michael Bobbitt, the executive director of the MCC, was here, and the awardees from all over the state were here to get their award. So they held it in Gloucester. But we are one of the few cities that have two cultural districts. We've got the Harbortown, which is down here, and then the Rocky Neck district. And they got $15,000 a piece. And primarily in past years, it's gone towards the Culture Splash, which is a great opportunity to draw the crowds into the two different sections. This summer, Kelly and I, we took advantage of the water shuttle to get from the harbor master's office over to to Rocky Neck to check that place out. I mean, we have so much to offer, and some people the locals never even make it over to Rocky Neck. So this is a chance to highlight it and make it easier for the visitors. It also coincides, though not funded by this grant, but the Harbor Loop concert series are on Thursday nights when the Culture Splash is going on. So it's great to create that two-way traffic between the two districts and hopefully cut down on the road traffic by offering the water shuttle. But we have a lot to offer in terms of museums and art studios, restaurants. And if people haven't checked it out yet, the locals and any other visitors who are tuning in now haven't checked it out, this summer, be prepared and utilize the services and enjoy what we have to offer.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to ask you about the meetings in a box, how they're going, but I will tell you that I attended one and there was a lot of talk about more water transportation.
Yeah.
Because everyone loves that, the
shuttle. Yeah. Well, yeah. So as we've been saying from the beginning, this process, the comprehensive planning initiative, the master plan, can't be just a dozen people or a few dozen people given their input. It can't be hundreds either. We've got a population of just under 30,000 people. So we need thousands of people to participate. And so far, between the meetings in a box, the comprehensive, the online survey, and other meetings, we're up to about 2,000 participants. So that's not too bad. We have certainly could use more, but that's a really good start. So this phase should be wrapping up in the next week or two. I've got my cheat sheet over here, but the idea is to the current master plan is from Plan 2000 by its very nature is very old, 24 years old now. So it's time to update it. My view for this is this has to be the vision for 10 years or so, not for the next 20 years or 25 years. So we need to sort of lay the groundwork of here's the vision of Gloucester's people as of when we turn it in at the end of 24. So mayors and city councilors down the road will realize, okay, that's what the vision was. Doesn't mean you can necessarily stick to it because who knows, today is very different than it was in the year 2000. So, and I'm sure in 2040 and 2030, it's going to be 34, it's going to be different than it is today. But at least they'll have an idea of why we put things in motion to at the time of now. So in the future, they can say, okay, we understand we can stick with it because it makes sense, or because of the changing dynamics around us today, 2034, we'll have to adjust. But it's incumbent upon us to make sure we have a plan in place that the citizenry buys into and supports, because we've got a $130 million corporation basically, and we have to make sure that we're spending our dollars and putting our resources and our public facilities, open spaces, put them in a fashion that's in line with what the people want.
Mm-hmm. And Greg, is that online survey going to stay live for the foreseeable future?
It should be for the next couple of weeks at least.
Okay.
I have to confirm, but I think that should be part of the first phase, the current phase, which may not be the same going forward. Maybe it'll be a different survey.
Okay.
We'll see what the consultant says.
Hmm.
And one other thing I wanted to touch upon too is I recently spoke with Matt Lundberg of the Community Preservation Committee, because there is a public hearing on the 22nd of January. But we want to get organizations to apply for that funding. I think there's $900,000 to $1 million that the CPA is looking to distribute to organizations. Do you want to talk about that for just a bit, Greg?
Sure. So we recently had the Lindsay, 1623 covered it, the Lindsay Coolidge Award, which was awarded to the people of Gloucester. So in the past, this award was created for people like Lindsay, who philanthropists who give big money to help get big projects going. And this year, as by virtue of my office, I'm a member of the committee, the decision was made that the biggest philanthropists have been the cities, the residents of Gloucester through CPA. I believe it was, like, according to Matt, between what the city CPA tax and the portion from the state was, since its inception, was about $7 million for projects. And that's everything from Project Stageful Park to playgrounds, the Adventure, all these other nonprofits. So we've covered a lot of ground. So that's why the award was made to the people of Gloucester. So there are it's affordable housing, it's open space, and unfortunately I can't remember the third category, but there are 3 categories that are eligible to apply for the grant. And so Matt's correct, we do have funding, and we don't always have applicants to tap all the categories. So I would suggest they go to the city's website. There should be, if they just go to the search bar and type in community preservation, those who are interested can see what might be eligible. But the money is there to help, build up these things that were seen as the voters back in, I think it was 2012-ish, maybe even prior to that, 2009, voted to accept CPA after failing on the ballot twice. So I think it's been a very successful endeavor, and things are getting done that might not necessarily have happened without it.
Yeah. And
I think the third category, historic preservation.
There you go. Thank you. That's it.
And we'll have the links for the survey and for the link through the city's website too, to follow up on this.
Right. So things, yeah, for historic preservation, things like this building was the poster child at City Hall, because you remember the tower was leaning a few years back, and that was sort of what helped get people motivated to support CPA. And but since then we've done things like the tower at Our Lady of Good Voyage Church was the most recent one, and then over at the UU Church, and the Adventure is considered a historic site. So there are a lot of things that will qualify. So I would urge people, if they have a nonprofit or other organization that might be interested in receiving funding, to check it out online.
And Mayor Verga, any final words for the folks of Gloucester as we ease our way into 2024 here?
Well, I'm hoping that the snow we got the other day was the end of the snow. It certainly makes my life a lot easier if there's no snow. And I'm sure the superintendent is just as excited. The two of the hardest things: calling off school for the day or putting a parking ban in place. And so luckily we didn't have that. There's nothing we can do about it. I tried to keep the snow away, but I don't have that much power. But I would say thank you to everybody out there for sharing their thoughts. I mean, we get emails every day from people, and trust me, people don't hold back on their opinions, and that's fine with me, because we need to hear what's on their mind so we can help set the course that makes sense for us as we continue in this next term.
Mhm. Well, we appreciate your time as always, Mayor Verga. Happy New Year once again, and we will talk to you within a few weeks, I would imagine.
Great, thanks. Good to see you guys.
Thank you.
Interested in a sponsorship? Email sponsor@1623studios.org to learn more.